Morning, folks. My name is David Sturkey. I'm the zoning hearing examiner today. I'll be presiding over the hearing. I just started our YouTube live stream. All of these meetings are public. They're streamed live to YouTube so that anyone from the public is able to tune in and watch if they would like. I'm going to go ahead and start by just getting everyone checked in. And so I'll just go off the orientation of my screen here. I have Mark Demko. As I say your name, if you could just unmute and let me know who you're representing here today.
Yes, Mark Demko.
Are you guys in the same room?
We are.
Yeah, there's going to be some echo there.
Mark Demko with CCI Design, representing the designers for the project.
Okay, great. Welcome. I assume then Dan Cotton, you're also with CCI Design. Okay. Yeah, I think if we just have one of you unmuted at a time, that should be good. Or one of the speakers down. Looks like you guys might have figured it out. Okay, Jay Johnson.
Yes, hello.
Hi, good morning. Looks like we have you down as the owner. Welcome.
Yeah. Thank you.
Sure. We'll get started here in just a minute. And Wes, you with us?
Good morning.
Hey, Wes, good morning. As all you know, Wes is our zoning plans examiner that wrote the staff report on this case. Okay. I am going to run through a couple of administrative things I need to cover before we get started, and then we'll jump right into it. So the last thing I need to do here is start a recording. All these are recorded and kept on file at the city as well. This is the March 23rd, 2022 session of the zoning hearing examiner docket. My name is David Sturkey. I'm the zoning hearing examiner for the city of Cincinnati, and I'll preside over this hearing. The case before us today is case number, ZH20220018. The purpose of this hearing is to allow applicants and opposing parties to testify and offer and refute evidence and testimony. This hearing will follow the rules found in the zoning code and the supplemental rules of the zoning hearing examiner. All testimony and evidence that an applicant or any opposing party wishes to offer must be presented at this hearing, unless the party has submitted testimony or argument in the form of writing prior to this hearing. The hearing will proceed as follows. The applicant, the applicant's attorney, or the applicant's agent will first present the applicant's case. If there were anyone here from the public, they would have an opportunity to present after the applicant had presented its case. I'll allow the zoning plans examiner, Wes Menzel, to offer any testimony in addition to his staff report that he would like. In the event that any party testifies or offers argument in opposition to this application, the applicant will have an opportunity to rebut that testimony. And then finally, the applicant will have an opportunity to make any closing statements. Now, when I refer to the applicant here, I'm referring to anyone on the applicant or the owner's side. So Mr. Demko, Mr. Cotton, or Mr. Johnson, I'll give each of you an opportunity to tell me about the project if you would like. All or just one of you can speak. It's completely up to you. I just leave it up to however you guys want to orient the presentation to best let me know what the project is and why you think it's appropriate. After all presentations have been made, I will close the hearing. Decisions may be expected within 2 weeks. I may limit or exclude any testimony that I deem irrelevant or outside the scope of the application being considered. I may interrupt any speaker to ask questions or make any comments. I may also refuse to consider hearsay testimony or documents. That's generally evidence you want to introduce that consists of statements made by someone who's not present here. In the event of any technical difficulties or unforeseen circumstances with the video conferencing technology, I'll do my best to troubleshoot those on the fly, but to the extent there's some defect that prevents us from meaningfully going forward with this hearing, I may continue or postpone this hearing at my discretion. Okay. Last thing I need to do is just swear in all of our witnesses. So if you intend on providing any testimony here today, asking any questions, making any comments, doing anything other than just strictly observing, then you need to be sworn in. If you're not sure yet if you want to testify, I can swear you in at any time during the hearing. But if you know you need to testify, I'd like to swear you in now. So if that is you, if you could take yourself off of mute, I need everyone to answer out loud and to raise their right hand. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you shall give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thanks, everyone. Who's going to be taking the lead here on the presentation of the applicant's case?
That will be me.
Okay, Mr. Demko, the floor is yours.
So the project is a addition of a deck onto the rear and both sides of the residence at 3926 Eileen Drive. We are requesting a dimensional variance for the side setback to the south. Current side setback is at 7 feet minimum at the side yard. We're proposing encroaching into that 3 foot one to get to, or 3 foot, sorry, 3'10" to get into a usable side yard or side deck for the client, for the owner of the house. The overall variance total would be a 2'11" variance from the both cumulative side yard setbacks. And doing so, the main purpose for this setback would be on the rear of the house. We cannot go any further really to provide a usable space, outdoor space for the client to use on a deck for dining and general enjoyment of the yard. We would be also encroaching into a rear yard setback. And furthermore, the use of or extending that to the rear would encroach into the access to the garage, which is on the lower level, access from the rear of the yard due to elevational changes and the drive access to that space. So we are proposing to extend this to the south. In doing so, we would not be kind of encroaching any further beyond what the existing structure already is non-conforming to that side yard setback. And it would give a good 10-foot usable space for outdoor dining and entertaining and use of the property.
Okay. Anything else right now?
Not right now.
Okay. So, yeah. Well, I'll let everyone else testify. I have a few questions, but we'll keep moving through here unless Mr. Timko, there's anything else you want to share.
Nope, I believe that's it.
Okay. Mr. Cotton, did you want to add anything to Mr. Dimko's testimony?
Nothing outside of just maybe capstoning it that because the one side yard is completely driveway, and then the driveway apron comes around the rear of the property and goes to a garage underneath. This is literally the only space in the yard you could put a deck. I mean, we're limited by the fact that the house was designed with this walkout basement garage in the center of the back. So the farther you go out depth wise, it creates a clearance issue to get underneath into the garage. So we're sort of pinned into this spot. There's not an obvious other spot to do any of this. And we have designed it in a way to not change the character of the property and the house's existing nonconformity. You know, we've been mindful to stay behind the encroachment of the wing wall that sticks out even a few inches further than we're proposing this deck. So we've made, we think, every effort to propose something that's reasonable and not a reach.
Gotcha. Okay. Here, let me attempt to share my screen so I can ask a couple of questions based on what I'm seeing here. So can you guys see that?
Yes.
Okay, great. So this is the wing wall you're talking about?
Well, there's even something that projects beyond that. If you look at the front image, the Tudor design of the house has a piece of wall. Yeah, it's right there in the corner, sticks out even several feet further than the screen porch. So that the house's edge is sort of defined by that wall.
Gotcha. Okay.
And it's visible in the plan drawing as well, that's on the survey and our proposed plans. That wing wall all the way to the bottom left of that drawing, beyond to the left there. There you go.
Oh,
In that
over
corner,
here.
that's sort of the furthest extremity of the house sticking out right there. And I believe if you zoom in, you can see that that dimension that's there is 2'11" and 5/8. And we're proposing that we'll be 3'1" and 5/8 off. So we didn't even push it to exactly to the nonconformity. We just kept a rational dimension and stayed behind that projection of that wing wall that's on the porch.
Gotcha. And the striped area here, this is the proposed deck area, correct?
Correct.
Okay, gotcha. So it doesn't wrap around. I'm sorry.
It does. The existing door off of the kitchen, the only rear entry is an elevated door that is on the north side of the house. If you move the cursor up So the only way to get to the deck is the existing door that's along the north side, and you sort of traverse around the deck over to this area that we can make 10 feet wide, which will hold a table that would big enough to hold the family. And you can see the setback lines as drawn for the rear are just about a foot behind there. So it's getting this to a 10-foot dimension as a setback issue, plus a clearance issue coming around the side of the house. So this seemed the most reasonable spot for it.
Gotcha. So to be clear, there is no, this is a wraparound deck that wraps around.
It wraps around from the existing door to the other side where we can get big enough to put a deck, to put a table and some furniture.
Okay, so this is more or less a walkway?
A bridge that, and it's about as far as we could make it to leave the clearance for the driveway underneath to the garage.
Okay,
The yard is sloped, so there's a clearance overhead issue as you come underneath. So we've massaged the grading to try to make it as useful as possible.
gotcha. Okay, but you're saying there are some practical difficulties with just extending this deck further into the rear. I mean,
Yeah,
outside
there's
of
a practical issue of overhead clearance with structure. The farther it goes out, the closer it gets to grade. It closes because it's sloped. And the other practical consideration is it's for us to move it out, we would be violating the setback in the rear anyways. So it's a two-tone. No matter which way we go, it'd violate the setback. And then there's additional structural and access issues by doing it in the back. So we chose the side.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Thanks. Mr. Johnson, do you want to add anything?
No, nothing for me to add. Sorry, I couldn't get off mute there.
Oh, no problem. Thanks. Okay. Wes, did you want to provide any testimony?
Good morning. I don't know. I think you guys have highlighted the fact that the driveway slopes down, and thus if you extend the deck out, you're going to eventually, it's not going to be tall enough to allow a car under it. So that's why you built to the side, or you're proposing to the side. That's basically the gist of it. But
Gotcha. Okay. Thanks, Wes. So how close will this deck get to the neighboring property? And I don't believe that I've gotten any correspondence from the neighboring property owner, but are they aware of this project? I don't know if Mr. Johnson, you can speak to that at all.
Yeah, I can. They are very aware of it. Yeah, we've spoken in detail to them about what we're doing. So they are aware.
So how close will it come to the actual neighboring structure? Do we know that?
At its closest point, it'll be 3'1" 5/8". So
Off of the property line.
on the property line.
And then that neighbor's driveway is on that side of their house. So it's really, their driveway is immediately adjacent to the property line, and then the full width of the driveway back to the house. I don't have on our survey a dimension, but it would be more than 10 feet additional to that building. And like I said, it's their driveway. Their yard is similarly set up to this property, where to the north is the driveway that accesses the rear of the property.
All right. Are there any other examples of this in the neighborhood of homes that have side decks like this?
It's difficult to tell because of the way most of these houses are designed. They're wider at the very front of the house and narrow at the back, so that visually they're not accessible, which is similar to this deck. This deck will be behind part of the building, so it won't be visually accessible from the street. It is consistent with almost all the existing structures in the neighborhood, based on what you can see in cages, do not meet zoning. They're all much closer to the property lines, the side yard property lines. You know, clearly the code was written after these buildings were built.
Okay. And yeah, it's SF6. Okay.
Yeah, the neighboring yard to the north, that building, their wing wall that projects out is within inches of the property line. And you can see in this survey how close the north building is to the property line, which is clearly not meeting, you know, it's not a deck. It's literally the sidewall of the building is much closer than existing zoning would allow. It's just a general characteristic of the neighborhood based on the age of the buildings.
Sure. Yeah. It looks like, just from what I can see, that it is a relatively dense neighborhood.
David?
Yeah. Wes?
Yeah, I was just scanning cages a little bit in the immediate area, and I can see a couple of decks in the rear of houses, but they have non-conforming side setbacks because of the narrow lot. Just on Hyde Park Avenue, like 3857 Hyde Park and 3853 Hyde Park Avenue. So there are some other non-conforming side setbacks for decks nearby.
Oh, there are non-conforming, you said side setbacks for decks?
Well, the deck is in the rear, but it's a very shallow side setback, and I can tell that it's less than the 7 feet required by SS6
Mhm.
for
Okay.
those two addresses.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I guess what's my sort of last question, and it's not even really a holdup, because I think I'm going to approve this, but it's one thing to have the extension of your home or a room with a wall and an exterior that goes up against the line. It's another to have an outdoor space where they'll obviously be, congregating and frankly, just noise. And so, that's one potential adverse effect that I see that could be a result of this project. Do you guys want to respond to that at all? I mean, it may not be more noise than you would see on a rear deck if you were doing a rear here, but do you have any response to that?
I think I'd make the argument that if we put a slab on grade or any of those things and you put a table out, it's the same thing. The issue is access because the yard is dropped for the rear yard. You can't walk around it. So we're elevating this back connection to it, but a fair use of the property regardless would allow someone to put a table there. We're just trying to connect it to his door at the same elevation so they can move freely back and forth. So I don't, in my mind, the deck does not change the ability that you could make noise on your side yard with a table. It's just they have an access issue because of the grade change. So that's meaningfully, what the difference is.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Great. So anything else from anyone here today in closing or otherwise before we adjourn? Okay. All right, great. We'll leave it at that then. I want to thank everybody for the time and their testimony. I'm just going to take a couple more days to review some more of the application. I didn't have a chance to look through all the site plans and drawings quite yet. So as soon as I finish that, I'll type up a written decision. And as soon as you have that decision, assuming this is approved, you'll be able to work with Wes on any necessary permitting. I'll send that. Typically what I do is I just put it into a PDF and I send it to everybody who's in the hearing. So you all will have it really just moments after it's complete. And then as soon as you have that email PDF, you'll be able to work with Wes on the permitting.
Great. Thank you.
Any questions or anything right now? Okay.
Nope.
If you like an update on the status of the decision, or you have any other questions regarding the hearing, please feel free to reach out to me directly, and I'm happy to give you all an update or answer any questions. All right, great.
Thank you.
Nice.
Thank you. All right, we are adjourned. Have a wonderful day.